Today's guest is Kaja Sokola, a former model, clinical psychologist, and one of the brave voices who came forward against Harvey Weinstein. Has since dedicated her life to mental health advocacy, using her experience and training to support survivors of trauma and abuse. We're honored to have her here and share her story and insight. All right, Kaja, thank you so much for joining us on Barely Famous Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You have a very powerful story to share, and for those who are not familiar with it, you came over here from Poland to pursue modeling and acting. Is that right?
Yes. Well, my dream was always acting, modeling. I started working when I was 14, and it happened very fast. I did not love this industry, but I was working. I had a good agency, so I was working. But when I was 16, I came here for the first time, and really wanted to proceed in acting.
Did your family come with you over here?
No.
You were here by yourself?
I was here by myself completely.
So what was that like?
I mean, right now when I look at kids that are 15, because I started traveling by myself when I was 15, it's scary because 15 is still a kid, right? It's very young. And so I just took it as something that came naturally. And, I was supposed to do that. I was a good student, and I was pretty obedient when it comes to instructions that I was getting. But, back then we had to still use paper maps.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I'm sure it was challenging.
It was very challenging. And, just like taking care of what you eat, to have, managing food, managing sleep, everything by yourself. It was like a jump on the deep water.
But did your agency help you with that? And how did you live over here at 15, 16 years old with no family?
The model's apartment.
What?
Yeah. 4 girls at, the tiny space, probably like 1/3 of this. And there was supposed to be a supervisor.
Okay.
But basically it was just,
a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so how did you end up meeting Harvey then? Because obviously you were 15, 16 years old, and he's in his 50s?
Yeah.
So how did you come across him?
He came across me, actually. I went for like a modeling dinner where promoters invite, girls. And that's how naive I was. I was so shocked and so thankful for inviting me for a dinner, because it's free food in a great restaurant. And I kept on thinking, like, what are these people getting from, inviting models to dinners? And obviously it's just, kind of a pimping out girls or
is that
promoting
what it is?
I mean, I would call it that now.
Right. But for what though? Like,
there are, when there are pretty young girls in the clubs or in the restaurants, a lot of wealthy men are coming in hopes of meeting a soulmate. No, I'm kidding. But that's how it works.
So he was invited then to the dinner.
He was there. He was there. So Butter had a restaurant on top and then like a small club downstairs. So after the dinner, I went downstairs and there he was.
Did you guys hit it off right away? Like friendly?
I mean, it's, I was extremely happy when I met him.
Right.
And when he said that he's a producer and that he sees potential in me and that, I look like an actress. How do actresses look like, actually? They are like unicorns. You can see one, you can spot it. But yeah, so at the moment, I, of course, believed him. And I did not have any fear of men like that, because I've never experienced. I mean, I had a great relationship with my dad, and he was like a role model, and he was always very respectful to women, to my mom, and so it really did not cross my mind that this man can be can bring any kind of danger into my life.
Right.
Also, in modeling agents, I had agents that were men, I had agents that were women, and I never experienced anything bad from them either. So I I thought, okay, that's like another kind of like an agent,
Right.
producer, agent. It's the same thing.
So you developed like a working relationship at that point?
I didn't. You can't call that a working relationship. So few days after we met, he invited me for lunch. And again, I didn't see this as something unusual.
Right.
I thought, a lunch, it's in the middle of the day, what can go wrong?
Right.
We're going to go to a restaurant. That's what he said. But when I got into the car, there was a driver in the car. He was on phone for a little bit, and then he seemed kind of like upset or stressed. And he said that he doesn't have time for lunch, so we're just going to talk. And I mean, right now when I'm hearing myself, it's kind of like, my God, this was such a cliche example of how a day rape looks like.
Right.
But again, I didn't have fear in me until we got to the elevator that was taking us to his apartment. Then I got very uncomfortable, obviously.
Right.
But he didn't talk much. And yes, and then he sexually assaulted me in the apartment, knowing that I'm 16 years old, which for me, this itself, it's just so creepy and disgusting. And I'm just going to jump forward a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
I remember when he was saying, when he was talking to the press during this trial, the criminal trial. And Harvey was apologizing to his family, to his wife, to his kids. He was saying that he did immoral things, but never anything criminal. Well, you know what? How assaulting a 16-year-old girl you can call immoral, but not criminal? And he didn't even apologize to any of his victims, which to me, it's another level of narcissistic psychosis.
It feels like another crime, right? Like
Yeah.
you're apologizing to everyone except for the people that you traumatized.
Yes.
Have you connected with the other victims at all?
I spoke to Jessica. Jessica is really amazing. Tarala speaks to Cassie. So I feel like we are getting, it's kind of like a tiny community, you can maybe say,
Right.
of women, because I don't think that anyone can really truly understand what it feels like to go through trial, open up the wounds and publicly speak about the biggest traumas of your life if they didn't go through it. So that's why Tara was extremely helpful. She was there during the first trial in 2020 as a Molino witness.
Yeah.
So talking to her really helped me to kind of ease into this whole process of trial and the aftermath of it.
After he assaulted you the first time, because you were so young, obviously you can't be faulted for not really. Where do you go from there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where did you go from there? Did you tell anyone?
I didn't
No.
I didn't tell anyone. Look, I was so, because it's like a Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Like you're so connected to the perpetrator and so scared of him that it's really hard even as a grown woman to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I really loved, recently I read something that Charlize Theron actually said about her abuser. And she said that it took her many decades to speak about this.
Yeah.
And her using her voice and saying that don't judge people that don't come forward with it. It's a trauma and it takes a long time.
Sure.
We have this ideal scenario that right after you rape, you go to the doctor, get examined, get checked, and talk to your friends. No,
That's not always how it goes at all.
So Miriam, who was Mimi, who was also in this trial,
Right.
she actually told, I think she was like the only one that talked to a friend right after this happened. But when she was assaulted, she was 29 years old. So
Okay.
there's a huge difference between a 29-year-old woman and a 16 or 20. So, I mean, I'm super happy that she did speak to someone, because it helps in the criminal trial for sure a lot.
Right.
Because someone supported, what she has said. But it usually takes really a long time.
And I don't blame any of y'all for that, because it's scary. And you don't, especially when you look at, you were 16 and he was a man in power, right? Like he had wealth, he had status, he had, you know what I mean? So like knowing that you are going to go up against someone like that, what are you?
Nothing. I wouldn't, I honestly, at the time, I wouldn't even know who to talk to.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you just kept it to yourself. And then the second time you came in contact with him, or did you sort of develop a relationship with him after that?
We spoke, like, let's say twice per year when I was traveling, but it wasn't like obviously a tight relationship.
Right.
But we did speak.
Sure.
And I mean, he made sure that I will feel like it's all normal, it's all totally okay. Like, he normalized it. And when I was, 16, 17, I felt like, okay, maybe he's right. Maybe this is how it is.
Well, that was
Maybe-
my next question. Did that sort of shape the way that you looked at the modeling industry? You were like, okay, this is normal. Maybe this is what goes on.
For sure, it was crossing my mind.
Right.
One thing that was difficult for me to understand was, he said that he built careers of Gwyneth Paltrow and Penelope Cruz, right? And so I, at the same time, berated myself, because I thought that these actresses, for sure, he didn't do anything to them. So then when Gwyneth Paltrow came forward and spoke about, what he did to her or what he was trying, it was like a huge, I don't want to say relief, but almost like a relief that it's not me who was the stupid Polish, teenage model that got herself in a situation like this, but he was just a predator that was, assaulting women all the time.
Right.
And people, to be fair.
Right. So you just, obviously you don't wish that on anyone, but you felt seen, I'm sure. You felt
Yeah.
you weren't crazy, because at
Yeah.
some point you're like, wait, am I crazy? Did that happen? Was it as bad as I thought? And I've been there, so I understand. Did you ever think that, okay, if I speak up or I speak out, I'll be blacklisted and I can't continue my career? Did that ever scare you?
I mean, I didn't think about that, but at the time, so when I when I wrote an email to the lawyers that were at the time at the case in 2017, I think, or 2018, something like that, I was working for TV in Poland, and I was managing a rehab clinic, and after the news came out in 2019. There was a lot of hate. People were trying, I mean, trolls on the internet, but saying that what kind of a psychologist is she? Just kind of degrading my knowledge just because of what happened when I was younger, which is very cruel. And right now we can observe this as well, these waves of like hatred towards Cassie, towards, women in Harvey's trial. And I think that's why these kind of conversations, so really thank you for having me, are so important, because, it's so easy to throw dirt at someone who already been traumatized so much, but we are real people.
Right.
We're not just some, pictures on in the magazine. We're real women who, who suffered already enough. So just enough with the hatred.
Well, and that was one of my next questions too. One of the things that you've said in other interviews is that one of the bigger roadblocks is not having laws and protections for victims. Yep. What is your experience with that? Because I know you went up against big companies like Disney and things like that, but they dismissed, I guess, all of your evidence. Is that right?
No. So in the civil case, I won.
Right. Okay.
And then in the criminal case, the worst part was, knowing that my sister is working with the defense, and it's still hard for me to talk about this because, you know, one thing, lawyers that are trying to tear you apart, but that's their job, to be fair.
Yeah.
But, you know, your own sister doing that,
Was she here? She was in the US?
so the reason why she was testifying is because when I was 19, she actually went with me for lunch with Harvey. And so, you know, she was there testifying about, you know, the fact that we went for lunch together. And then, you know, in her grand jury testimony, she said that when I went with him upstairs, right? That's when he raped me. But when I came back, I didn't tell her, but I was extremely tense and I didn't speak. I was kind of mute, you know. I wanted to shut myself down. And then she maybe asked if everything's okay. I didn't answer, and we, you know, kept on going with our day. But it was very clear that something had to happen because, you know, I'm a pretty bubbly, talkative person. And during lunch, you know, I was excited to hear about the movie projects. We were talking during lunch. He was talking about European actresses in American films. And so it kind of felt like, okay, maybe right now he's really wanting to help me. And my sister, who I really wanted to have approval of, was hearing that. So I thought she will also believe that this is not just some kind of a ludicrous idea of mine to be an actress, but here's a producer, he's a man who actually created a lot of careers, and he's saying that I can be the next one. So, you know, it felt like there's something good coming out of that.
So did you ever have a conversation with your sister about why she would testify against you?
I have not talked to her after that. So what she did in court was, I read her testimony. I couldn't be there because the way it works during criminal trials, if you are testifying, if you're a victim, you can't be there during other testimonies, so that nobody will say that you tailored your testimony to look like others, right?
Okay.
So I didn't know what she exactly said until the end of the trial when I got the transcripts. And she completely changed her testimony. She suddenly said that when I got back down, I looked like someone who's waiting for an Oscar. What the fuck is that?
What does that mean?
She was trying to portray me as, you know, I don't know. But for sure, she wanted to paint it differently. And then she changed her testimony so that she was almost impeached, because she suddenly said that, yeah, we talked normally and everything was normal and everything was, you know, the rest of the day was normal. And then the prosecutors gave her the testimony and said, this is not what you said, you know, last August. And so she started kind of maneuvering that she doesn't remember, that English is not her first language and all this kind of bullshit. But obviously she was, you know, she was really trying to hurt me.
But why? You guys had a good enough relationship. You said that you always wanted to have her approval. That's really upsetting.
Yes. So the relationship was, let's say, pure on my side. I would say that.
Yeah.
Because I never wanted to compete. Like, I'm not jealous of others. I never really was. If she's a doctor, smart, but I mean, she did certain things that really, really hurt me, and she continues to try to do that. And unfortunately, I think that money are a big part of this, of the way she acts.
Right.
But jealousy probably as well, you know?
Yeah. So you go through the trial. You find out that your sister testifies essentially against you.
Yeah.
You don't have a relationship with her. And you go up against big opponents like Disney, like we were saying. What was the deciding factor for you where you're like, I am going to stand up for myself?
My son.
Yeah.
My son. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He is my reason for everything, mm-hmm. truly. And I just love him to death. and you know, I had to fight for myself from the abuse of my husband.
Okay.
My ex-husband. And that's when it first started. I started to slowly feel more power because, you know, Before I escaped from Poland, I had a separation with my ex for 2 months. I went to my friend and I asked her if I can stay there. Then I rented Airbnb apartment. Because the abuse was so horrible, I started to understand that I can't stay in that same situation because it's going to go on him, on my son. And it started to. And I think that where I'm going with that is that once I started to gain a little bit of power, like feeling stronger, then all the other stuff were easy, let's say, to take in consideration and make decision to participate in the trials, to escape from Poland, to build a new life. But it is very hard.
Yeah, I could imagine. I could imagine. When did you first realize that there were other victims that Harvey traumatized?
2017, 2018, and it was. I mean, I didn't see that in press myself at first, but a friend of mine who knew that I know him, he didn't know the details, but he knew that I was scared of him. I mean, many people knew that I was scared of him. My friend Tanya knew that I was scared of him, and she wanted to testify on my behalf in the criminal trial, but they didn't have a chance to question her.
Right.
But so my friend wrote me a message saying that I don't know what happened between you and Harvey, but check this article out because there are a lot of women that are coming forward, and I think it might be helpful for you and useful. And so when I read that, I was shocked.
Right.
I was shocked to hear, these. So, first of all, the number of women, like 100, I don't know, like hundreds, right? And how many are there that didn't speak?
Right.
Probably a lot more.
Right.
So this, and then, the big names, Angelina, Gwyneth Paltrow, and, many other actresses. And it felt, again, it felt relieving at the same time as, of course, I wouldn't wish it to anyone.
Right.
But it just felt like, I'm not the one to be blamed here because this still, it's like the cycle of aggression. It's like in domestic violence situations, right? Victims still feel like it's, it's almost their fault for a long time because of the gaslighting and everything, right?
Right.
And so, so it's hard to get out of this cycle of abuse. And usually also, it's kind of a pattern that, if you were assaulted or if you were bullied when you were a kid, this is the kind of relationships that you will
Continue.
tend to continue until there's going to be therapy and and just deeper understanding of yourself and knowing that this is my only fault in this happening abuse is not knowing myself well enough to set boundaries.
Fair, but so who did you contact then at that point when you saw that there were so many other victims? What is the next step? Who do you call?
I wrote an email to Elizabeth Fagan. I think that was her name. She was an attorney who brought the first class action case.
Okay.
And so after there were a lot of horrible things happening with the class action case because initially the pot of money was supposed to be something like $140 million for all the women, for hundreds of women. And then they started to downgrade it. And it ended up being, I think, 14 million.
From 140?
Yeah. Yeah. The drop was horrible. And that's when I decided to get out of class action. And I contacted Douglas Vidgor, who's an amazing attorney, and file my own civil case in against Disney.
And you won?
Yes.
How terrified were you to go up against a company like Disney?
You know what? I understood how big it is when I started talking to people and I saw the freeze effect. Like people were scared to even talk about that.
Right.
So that's when I understood that it's a big deal. It is a very big deal. And then again, something that was very helpful was to hear Abigail Disney kind of standing up for me and saying that this company should pay because they knew that a lot of horrible things are happening, in the company,
Right.
and they didn't do nothing about that.
Right.
So it was kind of encouraging, and it was really nice to hear that from her in the article.
Absolutely. So now looking back, obviously we're older. How do you feel about managers and things like that, managing kids in the industry, right? Because you came over here with no family and you just had to trust your agency, right? And you had to trust their connections and whoever you met. So now we have people that have booking agents and managers and publicists and everything else. Like, do you think that if you had some of those people for you and advocating in your corner, that things would have turned out differently?
I believe so. I hope so. But I think that, I don't like fashion industry. I just don't like it. I think it's very exploitative to young women. A lot of girls, I would say the majority of girls, are working here without working permits, not legally. And this has been happening for years, for decades and decades and decades.
And you think that's even true to this day?
I'm not sure, so I don't want to lie.
Right, of course, but
my assumption is yes.
So they're coming, like girls are coming here and not working legally, essentially.
Yeah.
Because for what reason, though? Just because they can?
It takes a long time, and it takes money to file for the U visa or O visa, the working visa, work visa. So, when girls are coming here for, let's say, 4 weeks in the summer, and they're being tested to see if they can work or they can't, again, my assumption is that not all of them get working visa, which the process itself takes months.
Right.
So it's not an overnight thing.
Okay. And then they come across people like Harvey Weinstein.
And then it's another layer of fear because you're working illegally. Personally for me, I was scared that he can get me kicked out of the country or block me from coming here.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I could not imagine. So then you take a step back from your modeling career.
Yes.
What was the deciding factor there? You just realized you didn't like it?
A lot of things. I was dating someone who was an actor, and I understood that at this point, this world is too toxic for me. And I need to balance myself out because I'm going to just go down like a rock, sink. So although I missed this world, missed New York, missed, let's say, traveling, not working. And but I knew that there's no way I could keep on going.
The way that it was going.
Just to your previous question, what I think should change regarding agents and agencies, I think that there should be psychologists working with models. That's for sure, that's number one. Like you have sex coordinators on film set. You have psychologists on film set. What about models? Why agents don't want models to work with psychologists? Because what? Because they will say how horrible it is and they will complain, and then the modeling industry will have a bad PR. Well, guess what? It already has a bad PR.
Right.
We know what,
We know what goes on with models.
Yeah.
So during this time when you step away from your modeling career, you go into psychology and you get your degree. Why psychology?
I just really wanted to help myself and understand myself.
Yeah.
And just throughout the years, I started to really like it, and I started to notice how I can be helpful to others.
Right.
And of course, as a rookie psychologist, oh my God, I would make so many mistakes. I apologize to my first patients, but I hope, yeah, you're okay now. But I think first time when I really understand how impactful it can be was when my professor with whom I was writing my master's thesis told me that I should actually work on models and eating disorders and body image problems, because that was something that I was very interested in. I suffered from, anorexia and bulimia, and it's really hard to get out of that.
Right.
It really is like addiction, and we compare it to addiction, especially that for women, very often bulimia goes with alcoholism.
Okay.
So it's all connected. But so when I was writing my thesis, I made a research on a group of 90 models or something like that, I don't remember. And like the percentage that of the girls that had body image problems or eating disorders was up the roof, and so there really, there really should be help provided to girls and women working in the show business or in modeling industries.
Did you see that a lot when you were modeling yourself? Like,
of course,
eating disorders or disordered eating. I just did an episode with Jackie Goldsnyder. She wrote a book on her battle with anorexia. I think it was like 15 years or something like that. She was struggling really bad with it. And so...
but it's, it never really, I mean, I don't know what she would say, but I think that it never really ends. Like, you have to have this in mind for the rest of your life, because, certain things can just trigger. And I mean, I had so much anxiety during that period that I was, for example, eating compulsively. And I understand that this is my way of trying to cope with stress.
Right.
But yeah, it's, it's something that really stays like a shadow with you all the time.
No regrets for your psychology degree, though?
No.
This trial was the inception of the Me Too movement. So what was it like dealing with the criticism of that?
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people were saying that Me Too is dead. And unfortunately, I think that it's not dead, but not in a good condition. We saw it in the Diddy trial and this trial, that there is some kind of a shift. And what's really scary is that I don't think that people don't believe women. I think it's more that they don't care anymore, which is almost even worse.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they don't care?
Because maybe a lot of people are thinking that, they deserved it. They put themselves in this situation. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing that was on both trials, pushing the limit to say that it was consensual, that both parties wanted to participate in that. And, I think that maybe people think that, they put themselves in this situation, so, it's their fault.
That's actually so sad.
That is worse, I think, than don't believe.
Yeah. 1,000%.
There has been so many, big cases, Blake and Justin Baldoni and Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and I think that, it's really bad if you put all cases in the same basket, because Amber lost her case, right? And it was, a big setback. And I think that also impacted the way people portray Me Too.
Other cases?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Alessandra and I are always big on, like, you just believe the woman. So yeah. We're definitely, just believe the woman. What do you have to say to people who criticize you for how long it took you to come forward, or for any victim to come forward. Well, it couldn't have been that bad if she waited 5 years, or it couldn't have been bad if she didn't tell the police right away. Like, what do you have to say to those people?
I dare you to say it to my face.
Literally.
I literally dare you to say it to my face, and I will respond that I wish nobody would be in a situation like this, so they would have to understand on their own how long it takes to talk about things like this,
Right.
and how long it takes to step forward, and how brave it is to step forward and to talk about that.
Yeah.
It's really not. In sexual assault trials, in rape trials, victims are almost on stand. I mean, it's almost like they have to protect themselves. It's an excruciating process.
Well, I think what people fail to realize is that the burden of proof is on the victim, right? Like, you have to prove that this person did it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the cases get dismissed, not because it didn't happen, but for a lack of evidence that it happened.
Yeah.
But just because there's a lack of evidence doesn't mean that it didn't happen at all. And that's where, in sexual assault cases, I feel like there's a big miscommunication, I guess, or a misunderstanding. Just because there's a lack of evidence doesn't mean. So how do I prove that this happened to me 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And then the general public will be like, well, then it didn't happen if there's no proof. Well, how do you want me to prove this?
Yeah, it's not like we're taking pictures and video tapes
Right.
after sexual assault.
What was the process of coming to terms with the fact that you were sexually assaulted? Was there ever a point where you were like, was I sexually assaulted? Like, it was more of a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
You question yourself. I mean, I question myself all the time. And I think that really what like grounded me in a way of thinking that it wasn't my fault and that I was raped was when I started to experience domestic violence from my husband. And this itself was a very difficult process because at the beginning, we were married for 7 years, and at the beginning I tried to make it less horrible than it was. Then I tried to explain him to, let's say, others that saw that he's angry or upset. Like my mom saw it, my sister saw it, and my mom would tell me to leave him. And then at the beginning, I would just say that, oh no, he's just stressed. It's just a back problem. It's whatever. But then, when the physical violence started to come in, when I saw my dog being scared of him, I started to, understand that I'm a victim of domestic violence. And that was really hard because I was working as a psychologist. I was doing great. My practice was growing. Then the TV, the press came in to my life as a part of, my work. And admitting that, I'm a victim of domestic violence was hard.
Right.
It was hard.
But then you also were like, I also am a victim of sexual assault.
I'm also a victim of sexual assault. And that these two things combined were almost like, it made me feel, sometimes I overthink, but it made me think that people might be maybe believing less in my story by knowing that, oh, so she was assaulted and she was raped and she was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that all these things happened to her. And, and yet they did. Unfortunately, they did.
I don't even know what to say because I also have thought that way about myself, and then you feel like, am I damaged goods? Like, I can't be whole because all these things happened to me.
Yeah.
And that's hard too. How would you try to change someone's mind, or would you try to change their mind if someone said that to you? Like, oh, all of that happened to you?
You mean that, or how to help women?
Both, I guess. True.
Okay.
Yeah, how to help women.
Well, if someone would say that to me right now, I would just say, fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't care about your opinion and I don't want to talk to you. That's it. Getting older brings the comfort of, not arguing with
Yeah.
with certain people. If for you 1 + 1 is 5, have a good day.
Yeah, I'm not involved in that.
Yeah, but to women, what I would say is definitely, please, please, please talk to a professional. Even, you know what, the suicide line, right? Hotline or something like this. Like, talk to someone, because worst part of that was having battles in my head. So I was fighting my own battles, right, in my head. Am I crazy? Is this okay? Can he do that? How can I get out of it? And I was, at the beginning, I was terrified when I made the decision to come here. My son was 2. And, suddenly I'm a single mom with a 2-year-old, and 2 and 3 are tough years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You're not sure if you're losing your mind or he's losing his mind or we are all losing our minds. But yeah, and so suddenly, like, I had to face everything that I was scared of.
Right.
Support myself. Only count on myself because there's no one around. But for sure, it was the best decision of my life to come here, to participate in the trial, and to be able to be an advocate right now for other women. Did
your experience and your education in psychology help you with any of that? Like, even just battling your own internal conflicts?
Yes.
Did that help give you any insight for how to still push forward through all of this?
Yes, for sure. For sure. And, I mean, as a therapist, I learned a lot from my patients. And just, I mean, psychotherapy, like, if once you jump on a bike and you learn how to bike, you can, you will never forget that. So all these years when I was working in office with patients, it just made me understand how, people's mind navigate.
Yeah.
So that for sure really helps in life in general.
For sure. And were you the youngest one through all of this? Like,
I believe so, yes.
What was that like?
I hated the articles that were titled like "Youngest Victim of Harvey Weinstein," because it's nothing to be proud of. And I wish that nothing like this would ever happen to a 16-year-old girl or a 15 or a teenager or to any woman. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But I guess that, it just proved that, I mean, this is basically like being a pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and if it happened to you, I mean, how many other girls could it have happened to that haven't, come forward, especially if they're young?
Yeah.
I mean, it took a lot of courage for you to come forward. So.
Yeah. And talking about the age was definitely not something pleasurable, right?
Right. Did the courts deem the first trial mistrial?
Yeah. The first trial, they reversed the verdict, right?
Why?
Because they said that poor Harvey had an unfair trial because there were Molino witnesses. Molino witnesses are women that he can't be charged on the crimes, probably because of statute of limitations or some other stuff, but they show pattern of behavior.
Right.
And so there are, I think, 3 women that he was supposed to be charged on, and he was charged on, and 3 women that were Molino witnesses. So then the judges decided that because the Molino witnesses were there, he had an unfair trial because it portrayed him in a worse light than he might have been.
But that was his pattern of behavior. So
Yeah.
I feel like, so then you had to relive the trial again.
Yes.
Can you walk us through your mentality at that time?
I mean, last year when I heard that, his verdict was overturned, it was horrible. It really felt like, what are we doing?
Right.
Bill Cosby's out. Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
So everyone just gets away with it. They're getting a slap on the wrist.
Now, the president said that he might pardon Diddy, or that he's thinking about that.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah.
So when you hear things,
I mean, he didn't say he will, but he's thinking about this.
But so when you hear about cases like the Diddy he didn't get charged for all the things that he should have, in my opinion, should have been charged for. So does that re-trigger you? Does it bring up past traumas for you?
It actually makes me angry, and it makes me want to do something about that.
Right.
Because, one person can change the world, but if we gather and we do some things together to make, others understand that you cannot commit these crimes, because that's actually what's frightening for me, is that if men will see that they are getting away with that, then there's less fear of getting caught.
Right.
And there's less fear of, going to trial, because they might think, okay, well, worst come to worst, I'm going to spend, a month in courtroom and then I'll get out.
Exactly.
Like, we don't want to send that message.
No. And you would think they would want to make an example out of somebody so that they don't want to do it, but they keep letting all these people off the hook, and that's so frustrating.
Yeah, it really is.
During the retrial, Harvey Weinstein was acquitted of your charges. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you explain the circumstances around that and why he was acquitted of that?
I mean, from what we overheard from some jurors, it's because of my sister and the journal that she gave to the defense.
The journal was, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, an AA journal?
Yes.
So that's Alcoholics Anonymous, is that
yes.
right? So you struggled with alcohol?
Yes.
And your journal?
So it was from 2014.
Okay.
Or 13, I don't know. That's when I got sober. And so it was a journal that, describes people that have, hurt you, and what was your part in it, and what could be done differently, and things like that. I told in front of the grand jury that I never shared anything about Harvey Weinstein up until 2017.
Okay.
So in the journal, I wrote some things about Harvey, but I didn't wrote about sexual assault. Because, first of all, the sponsor that I had was working in the film industry. And second of all, I was terrified of the thought of, sharing this with anyone.
In writing.
And especially on paper.
Right. Of course.
So there were two other men that were aggressive towards me. But, it's basically, they were sexually aggressive, but nothing happened. And I never saw them again. So it was a completely different story. And there were not producers or actors or whatever, not anyone famous.
Right.
Just some people in my life. And that was really twisted on the stand. And I was asking, where are all my other journals? My diaries. In my diaries, which were only kept for me, right. I wrote about Harvey. And
but they were not admitted in court?
No. My sister just picked this one and gave this one.
So could your team have brought in your other diaries, or you didn't have access to them?
I didn't have access to them. They're in Poland.
So it's a lack of the evidence because you didn't write about it, but it's not, I don't understand how they could use it simply because you didn't write in it.
First of all, what was really horrible was that, I don't know if you're familiar with AA, but AA or NA are so... it should never be brought in court. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, like you wouldn't...
Because there are names also of other people, and they were read publicly out loud, and it was horrible.
I think it's hard to get your therapist notes into court, from my understanding. So that should be the same. Like AA or NA should be completely private.
Out of, Well, that was their angle. They tried to portray me as someone who was looking for fame and would do everything to get famous.
So was there no problem with that? Like they just allowed it to be in court, but they didn't bring up red flag?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you not have any type of relationship with your sister from the point that she did this? Or were you sort of talking because you didn't know?
I always had a rocky relationship with her. Last year, we got into a big split when she claims she didn't, but I know for sure she did, stole my son's passport, stole all of his IDs, and tried to make me go back to Poland. It's a big thing. Like money is a very important factor in all of that.
Right.
And I just stood up my ground and I said, I won't do certain things. I'm not, I'm not a piggy bank. And that's when our ways started to really separate. And I have not spoken to her. Maybe we exchanged a few messages. She wrote me one time that I should be nurtured and I should never have children again. This is kind of a sister that she is.
Do you guys have any other siblings?
No.
Just you two?
Yeah.
Which is even more hurtful, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, no, but basically right now I have no desire to talk to her again.
And I don't think you can be blamed for that at all.
Yeah.
This obviously opens a bigger conversation surrounding men with power. So what do you think can be changed in the modeling industry, the acting industry, and how much power we give to these men?
Well, first of all, right now I understand that, but if you want to be which is tricky for show business, because a lot of work relationships are connected with friendships, and that's how people operate. But especially if you're new in the business and you're trying to get your foot in the door and trying to break through, only professional contacts. Really, like if I could say this to my younger self, I would want to. Only professional contacts, only meetings in agencies when you want to do reading or whatever else. And then I really would like to see more psychologists working with modeling agencies and acting agencies, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's more understandable, I guess, for people that for acting, most of actors have psychologists or psychotherapists, right? And they work with them because it's the inner world that you have to access in order to be able to perform.
Right.
But for models, it's not seen that way, right? And it should be, because models are, it's a hard work. Sometimes you have 2 jobs in a day. You go from one place to another during fashion weeks, tons of fashion shoots. Then there's so much rejection also. And girls have to deal with it. Girls and boys have to deal with it, have to process it. So I think that definitely psychologists and really like sending men with power a message that you won't get away with it. The silver lining is that both Harvey or Diddy, doesn't matter. Well, of course it matters if they are in jail or not, but their careers are
hopefully done.
Hopefully.
I mean, at least for Harvey. I don't know about Diddy though. I think there are people who are.
I know.
I
was a bit skeptical.
About it. Yeah.
And because unfortunately, Cassie. I mean, people were worse to Cassie than to him. Like talking about her in internet, writing about her.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And that's scary because we saw all of that play out on video.
Oh my God.
What do you have to say to any victims that are facing, an internal conflict of whether to come forward or not? Like, what advice could you give on how to come forward about sexual assault?
I would say that sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger, being, for example, a counselor or someone like on a hotline at first, to try to ease in the situation of accepting that this happened.
Okay.
And it's not my fault. Mm-hmm. This happened and it's not my fault. And right now I need help. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm saying that is that sometimes when we talk to a stranger, being like a counselor that you just met, or, it's easier to share your story because there won't be any follow-up, or there might be, but you can always back off and be like, okay, I shared it. I don't feel good about this. But starting to open up is the most important thing, definitely. And if your family seems, not right for that, then talk to someone else, talk to a stranger.
That's good advice.
I received some messages from women that are, battling with their own traumas.
Right.
And yeah, I think that it's easier and it's really relieving to share it with someone. Right now, I am back in film industry because I have a film production company, and just produced my first big film with Jonna Howard King and Daniel Beckerman producing it. I'm a very resilient person. And I hope that this also can send a message that if you have dreams, you should never give up on them. And sometimes, life puts us through reroutes, and that's okay. That's okay, because also this is not a competition, or this is not a race where we have to be the fastest or the strongest. We just have to follow our road direction and listen to the intuition. And I think that's a pretty good advice. That's what I would tell my son. And yeah, it's just I could be bitter or angry, but I'm not. I still believe in kindness of people. I still believe in love between people and in good energy, and I think that's also important.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your story on Barely Famous podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.